next in the video lecture series. Now we're going to be talking about aggregate supply. Aggregate supply is similar to our last video lecture in where we were talking about aggregate demand, kind of in the same way that in microeconomics there's demand and supply, in macro there's aggregate demand and aggregate supply. So we're talking about the yin and the yang again of these two forces, and let's get right into it. So as you could probably guess, aggregate supply is sort of looking at the total amount of output or the value of that output in a country by the country's producer. So if we took everything that was produced at cars and houses and haircuts, everything, aggregated that or put it all together into one supply curve, that would be our aggregate supply curve. We define it very similarly to aggregate demand, the total value of all goods and services produced in an economy at different price levels, ceteris paribus. Next, as you probably suspected, we said that aggregate demand has an inverse relationship or a negative relationship. As one goes up, the other falls. Aggregate supply is the opposite. Just like supply with microeconomics, it's got a positive causal relationship, or a direct relationship. So as price rises, or price level rises in this case, so does output. Why is this? Why does aggregate supply slope upward? Well, as the price level or average price of all goods and services rises, firms are willing to provide or create more output. So it's very similar to microeconomics in that sense that firms are willing to provide more at higher prices. In this case, it's all of the firms together, kind of the whole economy. All right, let's take a look at what it looks like. Again, we've got PL. You could also have average price level or APL or price level or PL. That's fine. It has to do with the average price of all goods and services in the economy. Down here we've got GDPR, or in this case that kind of is showing real GDP. You could also have national income. You could have output. That's fine too. So we can see it's this is the supply curve. Now you can see it's labeled SRAS, which stands for short run aggregate supply. And with aggregate supply we'll talk about short run and long run, but we'll save that for the next video lecture. You could also just label this AS, so either SRAS or AS. And it's just like a supply curve, but we're looking at it in the macro sense. So it's aggregate supply. All right, what would cause aggregate supply to shift? What are the determinants of aggregate supply? The things that cause that aggregate supply to shift are kind of similar to the things that cause microeconomic supply to shift. For example, wages. If wages go up, aggregate supply would shift to the left. It would be more expensive to produce, so prices would go up in the output or the quantity in this microeconomic sense, but in macro, output or GDP would fall. If wages drop, it would be the other way. It would shift to the right. Also changes in non-labor resource prices, so rubber, metal, sugar, any sort of raw material, or even things like microprocessors or semiconductors. These are all things that also are costs for businesses to produce their goods and services. If they get cheaper, SRAS will shift to the right. If they get more expensive, they shift to the left. Also kind of very related to that would be oil prices. Oil is sort of in everything. It's in transportation costs for many different products. Also, oil is found in just about any plastic product you can find, or packaging, or rubber. Even many different types of rubber have petroleum in them. So oil's in a lot of things, and oil generally, if the price of oil rises, SRAS shifts to the left. If it falls, it goes to the right. Also in business taxes. So for example, businesses have to pay taxes to the government. If business taxes fall, what will happen? Well, the cost of operating your business will drop, and hopefully SRAS will shift to the right. If they go up, it goes the other direction. And please note that we also said in the last lecture that business taxes can also, or corporate taxes, can impact AD, and that's true. If people that invest or people that spend on capital goods, entrepreneurs and people that invest in different products, if they think that business taxes will drop, that AD could also shift. So please note that business taxes could be both, but the first thing that you would naturally want to shift would be SRAS. But you could also argue that it shifts AD, and this is IB Econ, so as long as you correctly explain, either would be correct. Finally, supply shocks, things like tornadoes or tropical storms or typhoons, earthquakes, wars. These could cause a disruption to supply and cause SRAS to shift to the left, making a lower quantity available or lower output available and higher prices, or average price level in this case of macroeconomics. All right, let's kind of show you what this would look like. So if you think about it, if we said that the price of oil dropped, right, or the price of labor dropped, and we were producing right here, if we dropped, drew a line from there to there, you could see at that price, that would be the output. However, if, for example, wages drop, or let's say the price of oil drops or resources drops, we're just, this is the average price level of everything, and we're just giving you one specific thing that drops. So if we said oil dropped or wages dropped, the costs of operating a business is now lower. So at that price, the business can make, now this amount of output at that price. So, if they were paying, the same amount of money, but the price of wages, the price of oil dropped, now they can make more at that same price. So at that price would be here, but you can see that the output is clearly higher. So again, think about it in per unit production cost. So if wages drop or oil drops or resource prices drop, SRAS will shift to the right, and they can make more output based on the cost of doing business. Okay. Now let's talk about, obviously it could go the other way. You could have a decrease in SRAS, and now here we've got an AD curve. So if we said, for example, wages went up, or the price of oil went up, now to operate, firms must pay more in cost to run their businesses. So the prices, SRAS will shift to the left, and the prices will rise, and the amount of output that firms make will go down. So please note that, these two forces of macroeconomics, AD and SRAS, they work together. And so, you could have SRAS shift to the left, average price level or inflation would rise, and real GDP or output would fall. Also, you could also have another example where, for example, we said there are a lot of things that shift AD. For example, if consumer confidence goes up, or if investor or business confidence, if interest rates fall, if the government decides to spend more money, if we sell more exports next year, AD will shift to the right. If AD shifts to the right, average price level will rise, meaning the average price of all goods and services goes up, so we will have inflation, and also we will see an increase in output, so real GDP will rise. Anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you very soon. All right, bye.